I was sitting at my kitchen table in my Dallas home, trying to text my old friend Linda. My daughter Ashley stormed in, ripped the phone from my hands, and slammed it on the tile floor. The screen shattered into a spiderweb of cracks. Her face twisted with contempt as she leaned down and said coldly, "You won't need this anymore. I'll decide what's best for you." My heart pounded so hard I thought it would burst through my chest. I said nothing. That night, I lay awake in the darkness, planning. By dawn, I was gone, vanished completely. My name is Albina. I'm 67 years old, and I never imagined my life would come to this moment. Let me take you back 3 months before that terrible night when my daughter destroyed my phone and tried to destroy my life. I've lived in the same house in suburban Dallas for 32 years. My husband Gerald and I bought it when Ashley was just 10 years old. It's a modest 3-bedroom ranch-style home with cream-colored siding and a front porch where I used to sit every evening with my coffee, watching the neighborhood kids ride their bikes. Gerald died 6 years ago from a sudden heart attack. 1 minute he was mowing the lawn, the next he was gone. The grief nearly broke me, but I survived it. I learned to live alone, and I learned to like it. For 35 years, I taught 3rd grade at Lincoln Elementary School. I retired 4 years ago with a decent pension and Social Security. Between that and Gerald's life insurance, I was comfortable. Not wealthy, but comfortable. I owned my home outright. No mortgage, no debt. I had savings, investments, and a financial advisor named Thomas who'd been helping me manage everything since Gerald passed. My days were full and happy. Every Tuesday morning, I volunteered at the public library, helping kids with reading. Wednesday evenings were for my book club, a group of 7 women I'd known for over a decade. We'd meet at each other's homes, drinking wine and discussing everything from classic literature to trashy romance novels. Thursday afternoons, I took watercolor painting classes at the community center. I wasn't talented, but I loved it. Once a month, I drove down to Austin to visit my younger sister, Margaret. She's 63 and still works as a nurse at a hospital there. We'd spend the weekend shopping, eating at our favorite Mexican restaurant, and talking for hours. I had friends. I had hobbies. I had purpose. I was content. Then Ashley called. It was a Thursday evening in late April. I was cleaning my paintbrushes after class when my phone rang. Ashley's name flashed on the screen, and I smiled. We talked maybe once a week, brief conversations about her job, her boys, the weather. Our relationship had always been a little distant. She lived her life, I lived mine. That was fine. But when I answered, I heard something I hadn't heard in years. She was crying, deep, gasping sobs that made my chest tighten with worry. "Sweetheart, what's wrong?" I asked, abandoning my brushes and sitting down at the kitchen table. "Mom," she choked out, "everything's falling apart." Over the next 30 minutes, she told me everything. Her husband Craig had left her 3 months earlier for a 28-year-old dental hygienist from his office. The divorce was messy and expensive. Then, 2 weeks ago, she'd been laid off from her marketing position at a tech company. She was drowning in debt, couldn't afford her apartment anymore, and didn't know what to do. "Mom," she said, her voice small and broken, "I know it's a lot to ask, but could the boys and I stay with you, just temporarily? Just until I get back on my feet? Maybe 2 or 3 months. I promise we won't be a burden." My stomach twisted. I loved my daughter, but I also loved my independence, my quiet life, my space. The thought of 3 more people in my house, especially 2 teenage boys, made me want to say no, but guilt crashed over me like a wave. She was my only child. Brandon and Tyler were my only grandchildren. How could I turn them away when they needed help? What kind of mother would I be? Of course you can stay, I heard myself say, for as long as you need. Thank you, Mom, Ashley whispered. Thank you so much. I promise we'll make it work. They moved in 5 days later on a Saturday morning. Ashley drove up in a rental truck filled with boxes, furniture, and bags. Brandon was 17, tall and lanky with headphones permanently attached to his ears. Tyler was 15, shorter and rounder, always staring at his phone. They barely acknowledged me as they hauled their belongings inside. Id spent the week preparing. I cleaned out the guest room for Ashley and set up the basement bedroom for the boys to share. I stocked the fridge and pantry with food. I bought new towels and fresh sheets. I wanted them to feel welcome. The first week was actually pleasant. Ashley seemed genuinely grateful. She cooked dinner every night, delicious meals like chicken parmesan and beef stew. She cleaned the kitchen without being asked. She complimented my house, my garden, my cooking. The boys were polite, saying yes, ma'am, and thank you. I felt good about my decision. Maybe this would bring us closer as a family. But by the third week, things began to shift in small, almost imperceptible ways. Ashley started making comments about my spending. I came home from my painting class one Thursday, and she was sitting at the kitchen table with a concerned expression. Mom, I noticed you spent $80 on that class this month, she said, gesturing to the receipt Ed left on the counter. Do you really need to keep going? I mean, it's kind of expensive for a hobby, don't you think? I bristled. It's my money, Ashley, and I enjoy it. I know, she said quickly, holding up her hands. I just think we should all be more careful with money right now. Times are tough. A few days later, I was putting away groceries when Ashley picked up my bag of coffee beans and frowned. Mom, why are you buying this fancy brand? Store brand is just as good and half the price. I like this coffee, I said, feeling defensive. I've been buying it for years. I'm just trying to help, she said sweetly. You're retired now. You need to stretch your dollars. Then she started opening my mail. I came home from the library one Tuesday to find her sitting at the dining table with my bank statement spread out in front of her. What are you doing? I asked, my voice sharper than I intended. Oh, I was just making sure everything looked right, she said casually. You hear so many stories about identity theft these days. I wanted to check for any suspicious charges. I can check my own statements, Ashley. I know, Mom. I'm just trying to help. You're getting older. It's easy to miss things. That phrase, you're getting older, she said it constantly, like a subtle reminder that I was declining, that I needed her. The boys became louder and messier. They left dirty dishes everywhere, their clothes draped over furniture, their video game controllers scattered across the living room floor. When I asked them to clean up, they'd grunt and ignore me. If I pushed harder, Ashley would intervene. Mom, they're going through a really hard time with the divorce, she'd say. Their whole world has been turned upside down. Can you please just cut them some slack? I bit my tongue and cleaned up after them myself. One evening, about 6 weeks after they moved in, I couldn't find my laptop. I searched everywhere before finally asking Ashley if she'd seen it. Oh, I borrowed it, she said, not looking up from her phone. I needed to update my resume. You could have asked. You weren't home. I didn't think you'd mind. I found the laptop in her room an hour later. When I opened it, I discovered she was logged into my bank account. My stomach dropped. Ashley, I said, walking into the kitchen where she was making coffee. Why were you in my bank account? She turned, her expression innocent. I was just checking to make sure no one was stealing from you. There are so many scammers targeting elderly people these days. I'm not elderly, and you can't just access my accounts without permission. Mom, you gave me your password, remember? A few weeks ago. I hadn't. I was absolutely certain I hadn't. But the way she said it, so confident and calm, made me doubt myself. Was my memory failing? Had I given her the password and forgotten? A chill ran through me, but I said nothing. I didn't want to cause a fight. I didn't want the tension. That night, lying in bed, I felt afraid in my own home for the first time in my life. 2 weeks later, everything accelerated. Ashley wasn't pretending anymore. The mask had slipped, and what I saw underneath terrified me. I woke up one Wednesday morning, excited for book club that evening. We were discussing a mystery novel Id loved, and I couldn't wait to share my thoughts. But when I went to grab my car keys from the hook by the door, they were gone. Ashley, I called out, "Have you seen my keys?" She appeared from the kitchen, coffee mug in hand. "Oh, I put them away. Where? Somewhere safe. I need them. I have book club tonight." She sipped her coffee slowly, deliberately. "Mom, I don't think you should be driving at night anymore. Your vision isn't what it used to be. What if you have an accident?" "My vision is fine. I just had an eye exam 2 months ago. Still, it's risky. I'm just looking out for you. Ashley, give me my keys." "No." That single word hung in the air between us. No, not, "Let's discuss this," or "I'm worried about you." Just no. Like I was a child and she was the parent. I was so shocked I didn't know what to say. She walked past me and went back to her room. I stood there, trembling with rage and disbelief. I called Linda from the landline and explained I couldn't make it to book club. Her concern was immediate. "Albina, that's not right. She can't keep your keys from you." "I know," I whispered, afraid Ashley would overhear. "I don't know what to do. Do you want me to come over?" "No. It'll just make things worse. I'll figure it out." But I didn't figure it out. Over the next few days, my life became smaller and smaller. I went to check my phone one morning and discovered Linda's contact was gone, deleted. When I confronted Ashley, she shrugged. "Linda's not good for you, Mom. She's always getting you worked up about politics and complaining about her ex-husband. You don't need that negativity. You had no right to delete her number. I'm protecting you." My painting class was on Thursday. I was determined to go. But when I went to leave, Ashley informed me she'd canceled my membership. "It was a waste of money," she said flatly. "You weren't getting any better anyway." I felt something inside me crack. Those classes were one of the few joys I had left. I loved the smell of the paint, the quiet concentration, the feeling of creating something beautiful. And she'd taken it away without even asking. "How could you?" I whispered. "I'm making the tough decisions you're too stubborn to make," she replied. The house stopped feeling like mine. Ashley rearranged the furniture without asking. She invited her friends over, loud women who drank my wine and left rings on my coffee table. When I objected, Ashley snapped, "This is my home too now. I have every right to have friends over." The boys became openly disrespectful. They ate everything in the fridge, leaving me with nothing for my own meals. When I bought groceries, they'd devour them within days. I asked Ashley to contribute money for food, and she laughed. "You want me to pay rent? After everything I'm doing for you? I cook, I clean, I manage your finances. You should be grateful, Mom. Do you know how many daughters would just stick their mothers in a nursing home?" The threat was clear. Behave or else. She changed the Wi-Fi password and wouldn't tell me what it was. "You don't need internet, Mom. You just waste time on Facebook anyway." I tried to call my sister Margaret from my cell phone, but her number had been deleted too. I tried to remember it but couldn't. I felt so isolated, so alone. Late one night, I got up to get water and heard Ashley talking on her phone in the living room. I stood in the hallway, hidden in shadow, and listened. "Yeah, she's getting pretty senile," Ashley said casually. "She can't remember things, gets confused easily." I'm thinking I might need to get power of attorney soon. Then I can really protect her assets." She laughed. "The house alone is worth at least $400,000. Once I sell it, I can pay off all my debts and finally get my life back on track." My blood turned to ice. She was planning to take everything, and she was lying about my mental state to justify it. I crept back to my bedroom, my heart pounding so hard I thought I might have a heart attack like Gerald. I sat on the edge of my bed in the darkness, shaking. A few days later, I made a discovery that confirmed my worst fears. I walked into my bedroom to find Ashley going through my jewelry box. She had my late mother's diamond engagement ring in her hand, holding it up to the light. "What are you doing?" I demanded. She didn't even flinch, didn't look guilty or ashamed. She just turned to me with cold eyes and said, "You're not going to live forever, Mom. I'm just taking inventory so I can plan the estate properly. It's important to know what assets you have. That's my mother's ring. You have no right to touch it. It'll be mine eventually anyway." She placed it carefully back in the box, then walked past me. As she did, she added, "You should really make sure your will is updated. You wouldn't want things to get messy when you die. When you die. Not if, when." I stood there, my hands shaking with rage I couldn't express. I wanted to scream, to throw her out, to call the police, but I was paralyzed by fear and disbelief. This was my daughter, my own child. How had it come to this? That night, I barely slept. I lay in the darkness, staring at the ceiling, trying to understand how the sweet baby girl Id rocked to sleep had turned into this calculating, cruel stranger. By the 10th week, I felt like a prisoner in my own home. Ashley had systematically dismantled every aspect of my independence, and I didn't know how to stop her. I woke up one morning to find Shed rearrange the entire house overnight. The furniture was in different places. My books were gone from the shelves, boxed up and stacked in the garage. When I asked why, she said simply, "I needed the space." My painting supplies had vanished. Every brush, every tube of paint, my easel, my sketchbooks, gone. "Where are my art supplies?" I demanded. "I donated them. You weren't using them anymore." "I was using them. You canceled my class, but I still painted here at home." "Well, they were taking up too much space." I felt tears burning my eyes but refused to let them fall in front of her. That afternoon, I discovered Shed converted my home office into a bedroom for Tyler. My desk was gone, replaced by his bed. My filing cabinets with important papers were shoved into the garage. My computer was on the curb waiting for trash pickup. "That was my office," I said, my voice breaking. "Mom, you don't work anymore. You don't need an office." Ashley's voice was patronizing, like she was explaining something to a small child. My mail started disappearing. Important letters from my bank, from my financial advisor Thomas, from my doctor. I'd go to the mailbox and find it empty day after day. Later, I discovered Ashley had been intercepting everything, opening it before I could see it. One morning, I had a routine appointment with my primary care doctor, Dr. Harrison. I'd been seeing him for 15 years. Ashley insisted on driving me and coming into the exam room. "I want to go alone," I told her. "Mom, you might forget to mention important symptoms. I need to be there to help." In the exam room, Ashley spoke for me. She told Dr. Harrison I'd been confused lately, forgetting things, repeating myself. She said I'd left the stove on, twice, a lie, and couldn't remember conversations Wed had another lie. She painted a picture of a woman in cognitive decline. Dr. Harrison looked at me with concern. "Albina, how are you feeling? Are you having any memory problems?" "No," I said firmly. "I'm fine." "She doesn't remember that she forgets," Ashley interjected. "That's part of the problem." I wanted to scream the truth, But with Ashley sitting right there, I felt helpless. What if Dr. Harrison believed her? What if he documented in my medical records that I was senile? After the appointment, Ashley seemed pleased. "See, Mom? It's good I was there. You didn't mention half the things you should have." The next violation came when I tried to access my bank account online. The password had been changed. I tried several combinations, but nothing worked. My account was locked after too many failed attempts. "Ashley, did you change my bank password?" "I had to, Mom. Someone was trying to hack your account. I got an alert. I changed it to protect you. What's the new password? I'll handle your finances from now on. It's safer that way. That's my money. And I'm keeping it safe." She took my checkbook too, claiming it was for safekeeping. I had no access to my own money. I was completely dependent on her. Brandon and Tyler had stopped even pretending to be polite. They mocked me openly. "Grandma's losing it," Brandon would say, laughing. "She asked me the same question 3 times today." I hadn't. But Ashley never corrected them. She'd just smile and shake her head sadly, like I was a burden they were all nobly bearing. Then my sister Margaret showed up unannounced. I was in my bedroom when I heard her voice at the front door. Relief flooded through me. Margaret would help. She'd see what was happening. I rushed to the door, but Ashley was blocking it, standing on the porch with Margaret outside. "I need to see my sister," Margaret said, her voice firm. "Mom's not feeling well today," Ashley said loudly enough for me to hear. "She's very confused. The doctor thinks it might be early dementia. I really think it's best if she doesn't have visitors right now. Too much stimulation isn't good for her." "Dementia? Albina doesn't have dementia. Let me see her. I'll have her call you when she's feeling better." "Ashley, move. I want to see my sister. Margaret, I'm her daughter and her caregiver. I know what's best for her. Please respect that." I tried to push past Ashley, but she'd positioned herself perfectly in the doorway. By the time I got around her, Margaret was walking back to her car, looking worried and frustrated. "Margaret," I called out, but Ashley grabbed my arm hard. "Don't make a scene," she hissed in my ear. I watched my sister drive away, tears streaming down my face. I tried to call her later, but my phone was gone. Ashley had taken it. "You're too upset to talk to anyone right now," Ashley said when I demanded it back. "You need to calm down." That night, I searched for my phone everywhere. I finally found it in Ashley's room, hidden in her dresser drawer. I grabbed it and tried to sneak out, but she caught me. "Give that back," she said coldly. "It's mine. Not anymore." We stood there in a standoff, and for the first time, I saw genuine menace in my daughter's eyes. I was suddenly aware of how physically vulnerable I was. She was 42 and strong. I was 67 and alone. I handed her the phone. The next day, I found paperwork on the kitchen counter. Ashley must have left it out by accident. I picked it up and my hands started shaking. It was power of attorney documents. And at the bottom, where my signature should be, was a signature that looked like mine, but wasn't. She'd forged it. There was more. A real estate document about selling the house. Plans to move me into a nursing facility called Shady Grove. The cost was $3,000 a month, which meant she'd need to sell my house to pay for it. Once the house was sold and I was locked away, she'd have everything. I heard footsteps and quickly put the papers back. Ashley walked in, saw me standing there, and looked at the papers. Her face darkened. "You saw," she said. It wasn't a question. "You forged my signature," she laughed. Actually laughed. "Who's going to believe you, Mom? Everyone thinks you're senile. I've made sure of that. Dr. Harrison, your neighbors, Even Margaret thinks something's wrong with you. I've been laying the groundwork for months. I'll fight you. With what? You have no money, no phone, no car keys. You're completely dependent on me. Face it, Mom, you've already lost. She walked past me, leaving me standing in the kitchen, my legs trembling so badly I had to sit down. That night was the worst of my life. I lay in bed, truly believing I was trapped. Shed thought of everything. Shed isolated me completely. I had no way to reach help, no way to prove I was being abused. But in the darkness, something shifted inside me. Fear began to transform into something else. Something harder, anger, determination. A refusal to go down without a fight. I was 67 years old, not dead, and my daughter was about to learn a lesson she'd never forget. The day after I discovered the forged power of attorney, I made a decision. I would not be a victim. I would fight back. But I had to be smart. Ashley had all the power right now. If I confronted her directly, she'd just tighten her control even more. I needed to be strategic, patient, and above all, secretive. The next morning, while Ashley was in the shower and the boys were still asleep, I did something I hadn't done in weeks. I left the house. I walked 6 blocks in the early morning chill, wearing my old walking shoes and a jacket. My legs ached by the time I reached the public library, but I felt more alive than I had in months. The library didn't open until 9, so I sat on a bench outside and waited, watching the sun come up over the parking lot. When the doors finally opened, I was the first person inside. The librarian, a young woman named Rachel, smiled at me. "Albina, we've missed you at volunteering. Are you feeling better?" "Much better." I lied. "Thank you." I went straight to the public computers and logged into my email. My hands shook as I typed in my password, terrified it wouldn't work, that Ashley had somehow changed this too. But the inbox loaded, and I nearly cried with relief. I had 67 unread emails. I scanned through them quickly. There were several from Margaret, increasingly worried. 3 from Linda asking if I was okay. 2 from Thomas, my financial advisor, asking me to call him. 1 from my lawyer, Patricia Reynolds, about updating my will. I started typing. First to Margaret, "I'm in trouble. Ashley has taken over my house and my life. She's forged power of attorney documents and is planning to put me in a nursing home and sell the house. I need your help. Don't call the house phone or my cell. She's monitoring everything. I'll contact you again soon. I love you, Albina." Then to Linda, explaining the situation in brief, urgent sentences. Then to Thomas, asking him to call me at the library's phone number during their business hours. Then to Patricia, asking for an emergency appointment. I hit send on all of them and sat back, my heart racing. It'd just taken the first step. There was no going back now. I checked the time. It'd been gone 45 minutes. Ashley would be awake by now, probably looking for me. I needed to get back before she panicked and called the police, which would only reinforce her narrative that I was confused and wandering. I logged out and walked home as quickly as my old legs could carry me. I was breathless and sweating by the time I pushed through the front door. Ashley was in the kitchen, arms crossed, face furious. "Where were you?" "I went for a walk," I said, trying to sound casual. "You can't just leave without telling me." I needed some air. She stared at me suspiciously but seemed to accept it. "You're too old to be wandering around alone. What if you fell? What if you got lost?" I walked around the neighborhood, Ashley. "I've lived here for 32 years. I'm not going to get lost." She didn't look convinced, but she let it go. That afternoon, while Ashley was out running errands and the boys were at school, the library called. It was Thomas. I kept my voice low. "Thomas, I need your help." Over the next 20 minutes, I explained everything. Thomas was shocked and angry. Albina, this is financial elder abuse. You need to take immediate action. That's why I'm calling. I need to protect my assets. First thing, we change all your passwords and set up new security measures. Are you safe right now? I'm alone in the house, but she could come back any minute. Well, work fast. I'm going to text you a code to verify your identity. Do you have access to a phone? Only the landline. That'll work. I'll call you right back. We spent an hour on the phone, Thomas walking me through securing my accounts. He helped me transfer most of my savings into a new account Ashley knew nothing about. He set up verbal passwords that only I would know. He documented everything Ashley had done, creating a paper trail of financial abuse. I'm also going to report this to Adult Protective Services, Thomas said. They need to know what's happening. Not yet, I said quickly. If you do that now, she'll know I'm fighting back. I need a little more time to get everything in place. Thomas hesitated. Albina, I'm legally obligated to report suspected abuse. Give me 1 week, please. I have a plan. He finally agreed, reluctantly. That evening, I waited until everyone was asleep. Then I slipped out again. I went next door to Mrs. Thompson's house. She was an 82-year-old widow I'd known for 20 years. She answered the door in her bathrobe, surprised to see me so late. Albina? What's wrong? Tears ran down my face as I explained what my own daughter was doing to me. Mrs. Thompson listened with growing horror, then pulled me into a hug. That's evil, she whispered. Absolutely evil. What can I do to help? Can I use your phone sometimes? And maybe store a bag here? Ashley monitors everything in my house. Of course, anything you need. Over the next 2 weeks, I became a spy in my own home. I played the role Ashley wanted. I acted passive, confused, dependent. I let her think she'd won, that I'd given up. But every time she left the house, I was on Mrs. Thompson's phone or sneaking to the library, building my escape. I met with Patricia, my lawyer, at a coffee shop across town. Mrs. Thompson drove me there while Ashley was at a job interview. Patricia was 60 years old, sharp as a knife, and had handled my legal affairs since Gerald died. She listened to everything, taking notes, her expression growing darker by the minute. Albina, what your daughter is doing is criminal. Elder abuse, fraud, forgery, financial exploitation. She could go to prison. I don't want her to go to prison, I said. I just want my life back. We're going to get you your life back. Here's what we're going to do. Patricia laid out a plan. First, we'd revoke any power of attorney, legitimate or forged. Second, we'd file for a restraining order and eviction notice, forcing Ashley and her sons out of my house. Third, we'd freeze all joint accounts and ensure my assets were completely protected. Fourth, we'd document everything for potential criminal charges, even if I chose not to press them immediately. This is going to get ugly, Patricia warned. Are you prepared for that? I'm prepared, I said. I've been living in hell for 3 months. It can't get worse than it already is. Then let's do this. I also contacted a small apartment complex in Austin, near Margaret. I spoke to the property manager, explained I was looking for a quiet 1-bedroom, and put down a deposit using my secret bank account. The apartment would be ready in 2 weeks. I went to my bank in person, during a rare moment when Ashley was meeting with a potential employer. I withdrew my important documents from my safe deposit box. My birth certificate, passport, social security card, the deed to my house, my will, photos of my parents and Gerald, things I couldn't replace. I gave them to Mrs. Thompson to hide. I packed a small bag with clothes, toiletries, medications, and my mother's diamond ring. I hid it in Mrs. Thompson's garage. Every night I lay in bed, refining my plan. When to leave, how to leave, what to say, how to protect myself legally. I thought of everything, imagining every possible scenario, every way Ashley might try to stop me. The phone incident happened on a Tuesday night, exactly 2 weeks after Eid started planning my escape. Everything was in place. Id bought a bus ticket to Austin using my secret account. Margaret knew I was coming. My apartment was ready. Patricia had all the legal documents prepared, ready to serve the moment I was safe. I was sitting at the kitchen table, texting Linda on my phone. I'd gotten it back earlier that day when Ashley was distracted, claiming I needed it for an emergency. I was coordinating final details with Linda, making sure she'd pick me up if anything went wrong with the bus. Ashley walked in and saw me on the phone. Her face transformed instantly, from neutral to rage. "What are you doing?" she demanded, texting a friend. "Give me that phone." No. That word. The same word she'd used on me when she took my car keys, but this time, I was using it. I saw surprise flicker across her face, then fury. She lunged forward and ripped the phone from my hands. Before I could react, she raised it above her head and slammed it down on the tile floor with all her strength. The screen exploded into fragments, the case cracked, the phone dying with a sad electronic whine. Ashley leaned down, her face inches from mine, her voice filled with contempt. "You won't need this anymore. I'll decide what's best for you." I looked up at her, and I didn't feel afraid anymore. I felt calm, because in 18 hours, I would be gone, and she would never see me coming. "Okay," I said quietly. "Whatever you think is best." She looked satisfied, even triumphant. She thought she'd won. She had no idea what was about to happen. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay in the darkness, fully dressed, waiting for dawn. My heart was steady, my hands weren't shaking, I was ready. At 5 in the morning, I quietly got out of bed. I pulled on my shoes, grabbed my purse. I crept through the silent house like a ghost. Past Ashley's room, where she slept, believing she'd broken me. Past the boys' room where they dreamed, not knowing their world was about to change. I unlocked the front door so slowly, it didn't make a sound. Mrs. Thompson was waiting in her car at the curb, engine running. I climbed in, and we drove away into the pre-dawn darkness. I didn't look back. The bus station was nearly empty at 6 in the morning. Mrs. Thompson walked me inside, gave me a long hug, and pressed a folded piece of paper into my hand. "My phone number," she said. "Call me when you're safe. And Albina? You're the bravest woman I know." I boarded the bus with my small bag, found a seat by the window, and watched Dallas disappear behind me as we headed south toward Austin. The sun rose over the Texas plains, painting the sky pink and gold. I felt lighter with every mile, like I was shedding years of weight. Back at my house, Ashley woke up at 9. She stretched, checked her phone, then got up to start her day. She assumed I was sleeping in. I often did on Wednesday mornings since I had nowhere to go, nothing to do. She made coffee, scrolled through job listings on her laptop, texted a friend about meeting for lunch. Normal morning routine. By noon, she started to wonder where I was. She walked down the hallway and knocked on my bedroom door. "Mom? You awake?" No answer. She opened the door. The bed was made. The room was empty. My bathroom door was open, and I wasn't there either. Ashley frowned, confused but not worried yet. Maybe I'd gone for a walk like that time 2 weeks ago, though it was strange I hadn't told her. She checked the garage. My car was still there, which was good. At least I hadn't driven anywhere. She went back to her coffee and laptop, assuming I'd turn up soon. By 2 in the afternoon, confusion turned to annoyance. Where could I possibly be for this long without a car, without a phone? She called out for me, checking every room, the basement, the garage again, even the backyard. Nothing. She called a few neighbors, asking if they'd seen me. No one had. Mrs. Thompson, when asked, said innocently, "Oh no, I haven't seen Albina today. Is everything all right?" By 4 in the afternoon, annoyance became worry. This wasn't like me. Even when Ashley had controlled every aspect of my life, it never just disappeared for an entire day. She checked my room more carefully this time. Some clothes were missing from my closet. My toothbrush was gone from the bathroom. My medications were gone from the medicine cabinet. A cold feeling crept into Ashley's stomach. By 6 in the evening, worry became fear. She called the police. "I need to report a missing person," she told the dispatcher. "My mother. She's 67 years old. I think she might have dementia. She's been gone all day." The police took a report, but said they typically waited 24 hours for an elderly person who might have just gone somewhere without telling family. They'd start looking if she didn't turn up by tomorrow. Ashley hung up, her hands shaking. Something was wrong. Something was very wrong. I wasn't the type to just wander off. And those missing clothes, that missing toothbrush, they suggested something more deliberate. She tried calling my phone, forgetting Shed destroyed it. The call went straight to a message saying the number was no longer in service. That night, Ashley barely slept. She kept getting up to check if I'd come home. But my room remained empty, my bed untouched. Meanwhile, I arrived in Austin at 3 in the afternoon. Margaret was waiting at the bus station, tears streaming down her face. We hugged for a long time, neither of us speaking, both of us crying. "I can't believe she did that to you," Margaret finally said. "Your own daughter." "I can't either. But it's over now." Margaret drove me to my new apartment. It was small, just a 1-bedroom in a quiet complex. But it was mine. The walls were painted a soft cream color. There was a little balcony overlooking a garden. Light poured through the windows. "It's perfect," I said. We spent the afternoon unpacking my few belongings. Margaret had bought groceries for me, stocking the fridge and pantry. Shed even put flowers on the kitchen counter, bright yellow sunflowers in a blue vase. That evening, we sat on my new balcony, drinking sweet tea, watching the sunset. "What happens now?" Margaret asked. "Now the legal part begins." I called Patricia from my new phone, a prepaid cell I'd bought with cash. "I'm safe. I'm in Austin." "Good," Patricia said. "Tomorrow morning, Ashley is going to receive a very unpleasant surprise." The next morning, at exactly 9 o'clock, a process server knocked on my front door in Dallas. Ashley answered, still in her pajamas, her face haggard from worry and lack of sleep. "Ashley Martinez," the server asked. "Yes, you've been served." He handed her a thick envelope and walked away. Ashley stood in the doorway, confused, then tore open the envelope. Inside was a lawsuit for elder abuse, fraud, and attempted theft. There was a cease and desist order demanding she and her sons vacate my property within 30 days. There was documentation of the forged power of attorney, copies of all my bank statements showing her unauthorized access, witness statements from Mrs. Thompson and others who'd seen how she treated me. There was also a letter from Thomas, my financial advisor, informing her that all joint accounts were frozen, all passwords changed, all of my assets completely protected and beyond her reach. And at the bottom, a final document, a restraining order being filed, prohibiting her from contacting me or coming within 500 feet of me. Ashley's face went white as paper. Her hands shook so badly the papers fluttered like leaves. She read through everything twice, 3 times, not believing what she was seeing. She grabbed her phone and tried to call me. The number was disconnected. She tried to call Margaret. Margaret didn't answer. She tried to call Patricia Reynolds, the lawyer whose name was on the documents. Patricia's secretary answered and said coolly, "Miss Reynolds is not available to speak with you. All communication must go through your legal representation." Ashley sank down on the couch, the papers scattered around her. The boys were at school. The house was silent. And for the first time, Ashley realized what she'd done, what she'd lost. She'd lost her mother. She'd lost the house. She'd lost everything she'd been planning to steal. And now she was facing a lawsuit that could result in criminal charges. She started to cry, but they weren't tears of remorse. They were tears of fury and frustration that her plan had failed, that I'd somehow outmaneuvered her, that I'd been smart enough, strong enough to escape. She crumpled the papers in her fists and screamed. Over the next 2 weeks, Ashley's carefully constructed a life fell completely apart. She hired a lawyer, a cheap one she found on a billboard because that's all she could afford. His name was Dennis Fowler, and he had a stained tie and coffee breath. After reviewing the case, he told her bluntly, "This doesn't look good. The evidence against you is substantial. Forged signatures, unauthorized access to financial accounts, multiple witnesses documenting your controlling behavior, medical records showing you lied to doctors about your mother's cognitive state. You could face criminal charges." "I was just trying to help her," Ashley protested. She needed someone to manage her affairs. "Did she ask you to forge her signature on power of attorney documents?" Ashley said nothing. "I didn't think so." "Listen, your best bet is to settle. Vacate the property like they're demanding, agree to stay away from your mother, and hope she doesn't press criminal charges. If you fight this, you'll lose, and it'll cost you money you don't have. I can't just give up. You don't have a choice." Ashley left his office feeling sick. She couldn't believe this was happening. She'd been so careful, so strategic. How had I managed to fight back? I was just an old woman. I was supposed to be weak, controllable, easy to manipulate. She tried one more time to reach me, using a friend's phone to call Margaret's number. Margaret answered, and Ashley immediately started talking. "Margaret, please, I need to speak to Mom. This is all a misunderstanding. I can explain everything." "You abused my sister," Margaret said, her voice colder than ice. "You isolated her, stole from her, forged legal documents, and tried to put her in a nursing home so you could take her house. There's no misunderstanding. You're lucky she's not pressing criminal charges. I'm her daughter. She can't just cut me off." "Yes, she can, and she has." "Don't call this number again." Margaret hung up. The police contacted Ashley 3 days later. Adult Protective Services had received a report about the elder abuse case. Combined with the forged power of attorney, they were considering filing charges. An investigator wanted to interview her. Ashley sat in a gray room at the police station, across from Detective Carol Morrison, a stern woman in her 50s who'd spent 20 years investigating elder abuse cases. "Miss Martinez, I've reviewed the documentation. I need to hear your side of the story." Ashley tried to explain. She painted herself as a dutiful daughter, trying to help a declining mother, but Detective Morrison had seen it all before. She'd heard every excuse, every justification. "Your mother's doctor reports that she showed no signs of cognitive impairment at her appointments prior to you moving in. But after you moved in, you consistently reported symptoms that her doctor could not verify through testing. Why is that?" She was good at hiding it. "Or you were lying to create a paper trail suggesting incompetence so you could justify taking control of her life and assets." Ashley's face flushed. "That's not what happened. The evidence suggests otherwise. I've seen cases like this dozens of times. Adult children who see their aging parents as ATM machines, who can't wait for them to die so they can inherit, so they try to speed up the process by taking control while the parent is still alive. I'm not like that. The forged power of attorney says differently. I'm recommending charges be filed. Ashley left the station in a daze. This couldn't be happening. This was supposed to be simple. Move in with Mom, take control, sell the house, get the money. Instead, everything had exploded in her face. Meanwhile, the eviction deadline loomed. 30 days to vacate. She had nowhere to go and no money to rent a place. She'd been so focused on stealing my assets that she hadn't bothered to actually get a job. Her ex-husband Craig heard about the legal troubles through the boys. Brandon had told him everything, upset and confused about what was happening. Craig immediately filed for full custody, arguing that Ashley was an unfit mother. The custody hearing was brutal. Craig's lawyer presented the elder abuse case as evidence of Ashley's character. He argued that if Ashley could abuse her own mother, she couldn't be trusted to raise their sons properly. Ashley's cheap lawyer tried to defend her, but the facts were damning. The judge ruled in Craig's favor. Brandon and Tyler would live with their father full-time. Ashley would have supervised visitation only, and only if she completed parenting classes and therapy. Brandon and Tyler packed their things quietly. Brandon wouldn't even look at his mother. Tyler was crying. "Mom, how could you do that to Grandma?" Tyler asked. "She was always so nice to us." "You don't understand," Ashley said desperately. "I was trying to secure your future. By stealing from Grandma? That's so messed up." They left with their father. The house felt enormous and empty. Ashley's friends, the ones who'd come over to drink wine and gossip, distanced themselves when they heard what she'd done. Her phone stopped ringing. Her texts went unanswered. She was toxic now, someone to avoid. She couldn't find a job. Every application asked about criminal history, and she had to check pending charges. Most places didn't call her back. The eviction deadline arrived. Ashley had no choice but to leave. She rented a tiny, dingy apartment on the far side of Dallas, in a rough neighborhood where the rent was cheap. It had stained carpet, a broken air conditioner, and roaches in the kitchen. She could barely afford even this. She moved out of my beautiful house with just a few boxes of her belongings. Everything else had been sold to pay her lawyer and her debts. She stood in the driveway one last time, looking at the cream-colored siding, the front porch, the well-maintained lawn. It should have been hers. It was supposed to be hers. But Id won. Somehow, impossibly, Id won. Meanwhile, I was thriving. My days in Austin were peaceful and full. Id joined a new book club that met at a charming independent bookstore. The women were warm and welcoming, and we'd already become friends. I was taking watercolor classes again at a community center near my apartment, and my paintings were actually getting better. Id made a piece I was proud of, a landscape of the Texas Hill Country, and Id hung it on my living room wall. Linda came to visit for a long weekend. We stayed up late talking and laughing like we were young again. We drove out to Fredericksburg, walked through art galleries, ate schnitzel at a German restaurant, and bought fresh peaches at a farm stand. Margaret came over twice a week for dinner. Our relationship had deepened through this ordeal. We talked about everything: our childhoods, our regrets, our hopes. She was dating someone new, a kind widower named Robert who made her laugh. I was happy for her. I volunteered at a local organization that helped protect elderly people from abuse. I shared my story with other survivors. I told them they weren't alone, that they could fight back, that it was never too late to reclaim their lives. I felt useful again. I felt valued. I felt free. One evening, 3 weeks after Id left, I received a letter at my apartment. It was from Ashley. My hands shook as I opened it. The letter was desperate, full of apologies and excuses. She said she was sorry, that she'd made mistakes, that Shed been stressed and scared about her financial situation. She begged me to drop the lawsuit, to let her come back, to give her another chance. She said she was living in a terrible place, that Shed lost custody of the boys, that her life was falling apart. She didn't take responsibility. She didn't acknowledge the depth of what Shed done. She just wanted me to fix her life for her one more time. I read the letter twice. Then I did something that 6 months ago would have been impossible for me. I threw it away. I didn't respond. I didn't feel guilty. I just let it go. Then, a few days later, I received a different letter. This one was from Tyler, my grandson. He was apologizing, not making excuses, just genuinely apologizing. He said he'd been selfish and disrespectful. He said he was in therapy now, trying to understand how Head let his mother manipulate him into treating me so badly. He said he understood if I never wanted to see him again, but he hoped that someday, maybe, we could talk. I read his letter 3 times, then I wrote back. I told him that his apology meant something to me. I told him that forgiveness was possible, but it would take time. I told him that when he was ready, when He'd done the work to understand what had happened and why, we could meet for coffee and talk. I never heard from Ashley again after that first letter. Patricia told me later that Ashley had moved to Oklahoma, working as a waitress, still struggling. The criminal charges had been reduced to probation and community service after she agreed to stay away from me permanently and never contest the lawsuit. I didn't feel happy about her suffering, but I didn't feel guilty either. Shed made her choices. Now she had to live with the consequences. 6 months after I disappeared from that house in Dallas, I sat in my little garden in Austin on a warm November morning. The sky was clear and blue, the kind of perfect Texas autumn day that makes you grateful to be alive. I had my watercolor set out, painting bluebonnets from a photograph Margaret had taken last spring. The purple and blue flowers were coming to life on my paper, and I felt a deep sense of contentment. My life looked nothing like it had a year ago, and that was exactly right. Sometimes you have to lose everything to discover what truly matters. Sometimes you have to walk away from the people you love to save yourself. I thought about the woman it'd been 6 months ago, lying awake in that bedroom, terrified and trapped, believing there was no way out. If I could speak to her now, I'd tell her what I know. You are stronger than you think. You have more power than you realize. And it's never, ever too late to fight back. I learned so many lessons through this nightmare. I learned that guilt and fear are tools manipulators use to control you. I learned that setting boundaries isn't cruel, it's necessary. I learned that family doesn't give anyone the right to abuse, manipulate, or steal. I learned that love without respect isn't really love at all. I learned that I waited too long to act. I saw the warning signs early, the small violations that grew into bigger ones. But I made excuses. I told myself it wasn't that bad, that Ashley was just stressed, that I was being too sensitive. I let guilt paralyze me because she was my daughter, and I felt obligated to help her. But obligation doesn't mean accepting abuse. Helping someone doesn't mean sacrificing your own safety and well-being. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to enable destructive behavior. I learned that age doesn't equal powerlessness. Society tells us that getting older means becoming invisible, irrelevant, easy to dismiss. Ashley certainly believed that. She thought being 67 made me weak and controllable. She was wrong. I had resources she didn't know about, friends who cared, professionals who helped, and my own determination to survive. I learned that asking for help isn't weakness. I couldn't have escaped without Mrs. Thompson, Margaret, Patricia, Thomas, Linda, and so many others who supported me. I'd spent years being independent, not wanting to burden anyone, but when I finally reached out, I discovered a network of people who wanted to help. I wasn't alone. It just felt alone because Ashley had worked so hard to isolate me. Most importantly, I learned that peace doesn't come from avoiding conflict. For months, I stayed silent because I was afraid of confrontation, afraid of making things worse, afraid of losing my daughter. But my silence just gave Ashley more power. Real peace came when I stood up, spoke the truth, and took action to protect myself. It was terrifying and painful, but it was also liberating. Margaret came over that afternoon for our regular Sunday lunch. We sat on my balcony, eating sandwiches and fruit salad, talking about nothing important. The weather, a movie shed scene, Robert's daughter who was getting married next spring. Normal, comfortable conversation between sisters who'd grown closer through crisis. "You look happy," Margaret said, studying my face. "I am happy, truly happy. For the first time in a very long time. You deserve it. After everything you went through, you deserve all the happiness in the world. I think we all deserve happiness. We just have to be brave enough to fight for it." That evening, I received an email from Tyler. Head graduated from therapy and wanted to know if we could meet for coffee. I wrote back and said yes. We met the following weekend at a quiet cafe in Austin. Tyler was taller than I remembered, his face more mature. He looked nervous as he sat down across from me. "Grandma, I don't know where to start," he said. "Start with the truth. That's always the best place." We talked for 2 hours. He told me about therapy, about learning to recognize manipulation tactics, about understanding how his mother had twisted his perceptions. He cried when he apologized for how Head treated me. He didn't make excuses. He just took responsibility. "I can't undo what I did," he said. "But I want to be better. I want to be someone you can be proud of. I'm already proud of you for doing this work," I told him. "For being brave enough to face what happened and change. That takes real strength." We agreed to stay in touch, to rebuild our relationship slowly. It wouldn't happen overnight. Trust had to be earned back through consistent action over time. But there was hope now, which was more than it had 6 months ago. I never saw or heard from Ashley again. She stayed in Oklahoma, living her life, and I lived mine. There was no dramatic reconciliation, no tearful reunion. Some relationships can't be repaired, and that's okay. I grieved for the daughter I wished I'd had, for the relationship that never existed, but I didn't feel guilty for protecting myself. Love doesn't mean accepting abuse. Sometimes love means walking away. Linda came to visit again in December, staying for a week. We drove out to the hill country to see the Christmas lights in Johnson City. We shopped at little boutiques, ate too much fudge, and laughed until our stomachs hurt. One evening, sitting by the fake fireplace in my apartment, drinking hot chocolate, she said, "You know what amazes me? How you got through all of this and came out even better than before. I didn't have a choice. It was fight or let her destroy me. A lot of people would have given up, would have just accepted it. But not you. You're a warrior, Albina." I laughed. "I'm just a retired school teacher who refused to be a victim. That's what makes you a warrior." I updated my will with Patricia, making sure everything was clear and ironclad. Margaret would inherit the house in Dallas, which I'd decided to sell. The money would be split between Margaret, several charities supporting elder abuse prevention, and a college fund for Tyler if he continued to do the work to better himself. Ashley's name appeared nowhere in the document. On New Year's Eve, I stood on my balcony at midnight, listening to fireworks in the distance. I thought about Gerald, my late husband, and I knew he would be proud of me. Head always said I was stronger than I gave myself credit for. He was right. I thought about all the women who'd be listening to this story, women who might be living through similar situations right now, women who feel trapped and powerless, Women who are being controlled by family members who claim to be helping them. To those women, I want to say this. You are not powerless. You have more strength than you know. There are people who will help if you ask. There are resources available. You don't have to accept abuse just because it comes from family. You matter. Your needs matter. Your safety matters. Your happiness matters. Don't wait as long as I did to act. Trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Document everything. Reach out to people you trust. Contact lawyers, financial advisors, adult protective services. Build your escape plan carefully and quietly. And when you're ready, be brave enough to leave. It won't be easy. It will probably be the hardest thing you ever do. But on the other side of that fear is freedom. On the other side of that pain is peace. On the other side of that fight is a life that belongs to you again. I'm 78 now, sitting in my garden in Austin. The bluebonnets I painted that morning turned out beautifully. Tomorrow, I'm taking a creative writing class at the library. Next month, Margaret and I are driving to New Mexico to see the White Sands National Park. My life is full of simple pleasures, quiet joy, and genuine connection. I reclaimed my dignity. I reclaimed my autonomy. I reclaimed my life, and it's good. It's very, very good. Have you or someone you love ever experienced a situation where family took advantage of trust? How did you find the courage to set boundaries when it mattered most? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Your story might help someone else who's struggling right now. If this story resonated with you, please give it a like, subscribe to hear more stories like this one, and share it with someone who needs to hear this message. Together, we can help people understand that it's never too late to fight for yourself, no matter your age. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it brings you strength, courage, and the reminder that you deserve respect and happiness at every stage of life. May you always have the bravery to stand up for yourself and the wisdom to know your own worth.